Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. Hello everyone, today I'm sharing the Love from Lizi January 2020 card kit. So let's get started with our first card, and I'm making 8 cards today, and this is going to be an inside panel pop-up card. Now I am going to use a blank card base which measures 6 by 6, but you can make your own. Just have a piece of card that measures 12 by 6 and score it at 6. So I have my card base and this is already made. I also have a panel which measures 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, and that pink card came in the kit. I'm going to sit that on my card base like that. Now I have 4 little panels here, and these 4 panels came on one of the sheets of paper that was inside the card kit, and this is a lovely one on this side, but I'm going to flip it over and cut 4 out of that piece of paper. Now it came with 2 sheets, that's why I'm able to show you what I did there. So I'm going to put the 4 panels onto the pink matte layer, and then I'm going to cut a strip of orange paper. It's like orange with sweets and cookies and biscuits on it, and I have 2 pieces here. They're 1 inch wide by 5 3/4 long. I've taken a happy birthday die cut, came on the sheet, and what I've done is I've stuck that onto a white piece of card and then fussy cut around that so it'll, stand out a bit better on the card. Then I have one of these tags. I've taken the string off the top and I have scored it down the middle and folded it in half. I have a little mechanism on the back. I've made a card using this pop-out, and I'll put a tutorial below. There'll be a tutorial up in the didgeridoo up there, and you can go to that, but I didn't, the video was long enough without showing you how to make this. So let's get on and speed up the video and make the card. I'm going to use my tape runner to stick down my pink panel to my card base. And once I have that down, then I'm going to take my 4 squares and I'm going to put them each on. Now I've put down my 2 strips in the middle just to give me an idea of where I want to place them. It doesn't have to be exact. This is a handmade card, so I'm not stressing the small stuff. Again, I'm using my tape runner, putting a bit of tape on the back of each of these little panels and sticking them down. Lovely. So then I'm going to put down my strips and I'm going to put that across there like that, and then I have this one, making sure I'm going with the direction of the paper. Mind you, I think you can place that any which way down and it would look fine, but I had a thing in my head, oh, is that the right way? I've put some foam tape on the back of the sentiment and stuck that down in the middle. Now I've taken 2 pieces of, again, that orange paper. They're 1 inch wide and they're going to be 6 inches long. I was just trimming the excess off there, and I'm putting it on both sides inside because the pop-up will show on both sides, so I want it evenly balanced. The next thing I want to do is use some of the washi tape, and I'm going to use some of the mustard colored washi tape with the sprinkles and run that along. There's enough width on the border paper there at the bottom to put that washi tape down. I've taken one of the dies that came in the kit, and this is the Best Wishes, and I've used some of the pink paper that I used for the card on the front for the matte layer. And I've also taken some of that pink card and I've punched out 3 little hearts. I have a punch in my stash, and I've used that one to cover up the hole at the top and also to decorate the pop-out part. But basically it's covering up the hole. That's what that's for. So there you go. I've put a bit of Spectrum Noir on the cupcake inside and the hearts. I'm going to put some on the cookies and gems on the outside of the card, and some of the sequins that came on in the kit, I'm going to put that on the outside of the card as well. So that's our card finished, our pop-up inside panel card all done. I'm going to leave you with some images of our card and then move on to card number 2. For my second card, I'm using a 6 by 6 scalloped edged card blank. Now you can make a card blank measuring 12 by 6 and score it at 6. It doesn't have to be a scalloped one like I'm using. I'm also using some pink card from the kit, and this card measures 5.5 by 5.5, and that's allowing for the scallops on my card. Then I've got one of the tags that came with the kit. I've stuck down one of the bows that came from the kit, and I've used my glue gun to do that. And then I've put some foam tape, some 3M foam tape on the back of that to give a bit of dimension. I've also used one of the papers that came in the kit, and this measures 5.25 by 5.25. I had to stop and think there for a minute. I've cut a piece off the bottom of that paper, and so I'm going to use that for inside my card just to give it a little decoration. It's about 1 inch wide by 5.5 long. So let's speed up the video now and put our card all together. I'm going to use some of my roller tape to adhere my patterned paper to my matte layer, and then stick that down using my tape roller to my card base. Once I've that done, I'm going to take my little tag. Why was that so hard to think of? I've just left my brain. And I'm going to stick that down onto the front of my card, and I'm going to adhere it down to the bottom right. And again, using my adhesive roller, I'm going to put my little strip of the pattern paper onto the inside of my card. Now I want to add a little bit of the washi tape to that. This was a second thought, why not use a bit of washi tape? So I have the paper stuck onto the washi tape, and then I've adhered that down to the inside. I've taken one of the biscuit or cookie stickers, and I'm using the Nice or Nice, depending on how you like to pronounce it, sticker for the inside. All I need to do now is add a sentiment, and I'm going to use one of the dies, the Best Wishes die. I've die cut that using the pink card, and that's going to be my sentiment for inside. So that's the inside of our card finished. I'm just going to finish the outside now by doing some embellishing on the front of it. I'm going to use my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen on the front of the card. I'm also going to use some of the lovely Nuvo drops that we got, as well as some of the sequins for the front of the card. Do remember that when you use your Nuvo drops, whether they're the glitter or the crystal ones, and these are the glitter drops, that if you have them at a warm room temperature, they'll work best. And also, when you use them on your project, if you tap your card, we'll say you're using a card, if you have them on and tap your card like this, doesn't have to be too mad now, just nice and gently. What it'll do is it'll take the peaks off your Nuvo drops and it will dome them out. Now it looks like I'm really slapping the card hard there, but I'm not. I'm just tapping it gently. So you can see there the spikes are gone just about of the Nuvo drops that I've put on the card, and they've domed over. And I'll give them plenty of time to actually dry, and they do kind of clear up once you've dried them off. I'm also going to add some into the sequins. This will help adhere the sequins to the card, although I have got glue under them. The Nuvo glue will do that, but I just find that when you put a little bit of the Nuvo drops on the sequins like that, it gives them like a sticker effect. Really cool. So again, I'm just going to tap the card gently, not, you know, not too hard, but not too soft either, and settle the Nuvo drops in place by doing that. And there you go. That's that card all finished. Here's some images of the card we've made. We're moving on to card number 3 now, and this is one of my favorites of the cards I've made. Well, maybe my second favorite. You can see here that on the gold card I've used some of the dies that came in the kit, because you won't see behind that. But I've got a ready-made card base, and it measures 6 by 6, but you can cut out your own card base using a piece of card which will measure 12 by 6, and then score at 6, and that'll give you your card base, but I've already made one here. Like I said, I have a piece of the gold card here and I've used some of the dies on it. Now this piece of cardstock measures 5 7/8 by 5 7/8 because I wanted a really slim border between it and my card base. Then I have a piece of black card and this measures 5 5/8 by 5 5/8, and then I have a white piece of card measuring 5 1/2 by 5 1/2. Now I've used the embossing folder on this white piece of card, and onto that I've die cut out the Make-A-Wish cupcake in the gold cardstock as well as black, and I have filled in the Make-A-Wish as well as the little pieces that you can see through in the cupcake. They're the black one, so I've put the whole black die cut on the back, and then the gold die cut, I've popped out those pieces and set that on top. I'm also going to be using some of the sequins as well as a Spectrum Noir sparkle pen. So I've sped up this part of the video of me using my Nuvo liquid adhesive to stick down all my different panels. And like I said, because we're going to cover up the gold card, I kind of felt I might as well use it and die cut out some of the, use the dies that came in the kit, because no one's going to see it from either the outside or the inside of the card. Once I had my piece of white card, and this is 300 GSM card that I'm using, once I had that cut out, I then put it through the really cool fab embossing folder that came in the kit. I totally love it. You can see here on the back of the cupcake, the whole of the back is in black. And then what I did was I stuck on the gold one on top of that. So it's keeping all those colors together. Now I had gold sequins in my stash and I was going to use it, but it was a different color to the gold cardstock that came in the kit. So I didn't want them kind of clashing. So I went with the gold sequins, which is small little round disc with a hole in them. These came in the kit in the bag of sequins we got. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to use those. There's also the tiny little circles that get popped out of those discs, and I use them as well. It's not something I think of often to use, but I just found that it was great to fill up the space on the card. I wanted a clean looking card for this, but I felt that the gold disc sequins and their little inside bits really added to the front of the card. So I was really happy with that. Then, like I said, I took my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen. You can use whatever you have in your stash. And I just went over the cakes and cupcakes on the embossed paper with that. I'm going to embellish inside the card using a strip of gold card as well as black card, bringing the theme from the outside of my card to the inside of my card. I'm going to use my Versafine Onyx black ink to stamp down my happy birthday sentiment. I'm just using a block to stamp this down. You can use a stamping platform or whatever, but I know this stamp, it stamps really clean and it gives a really good impression. So I'm confident enough doing it using a stamping block. I'm going to put even pressure along the happy birthday words, and then lift it off, and there you go. And it did stamp lovely. It would be Murphy's Law that it wouldn't have, but it did. It stamped down. So that's it. That is our third card, all nice and finished. I really like how clean and simple this card is, and I'm going to leave you now with some images of the card we made. Card number 4 is a card that measures 5 by 7. Again, I've used a Scalloped 5 by 7 card base for this card, but you can make a card yourself, cutting out a piece of card measuring 10 by 7 and scoring at 5. I haven't shown you what I've done inside there because I have some of this done already. Now I'm using my Hunkydory Moonstone dies, and these are scalloped and straight edge dies, and I'm going to use the 4th and 1/3 from the outside in to make a frame, and I've used a white piece of card for that. I've also taken some of the papers, one of the papers from inside the kit, and I've used the embossing folder on that. So I've embossed on this patterned paper, and what I've done was I've cut out my papers first and then I embossed the paper. Otherwise, when you put it through your machine, it can flatten out your embossing, and I didn't want that to happen. So I wanted to have a background for behind that framed piece, and I've used some of the yellow card that came in the kit. So I've cut down a piece of the cardstock, and this measures 4.5 by 6.5, and I've used a corner rounder on the corners of that. I wanted then to embellish that piece of yellow card that's going to sit behind my frame, and I thought the best thing to do to kind of fill out those corners would be to use some of the stamps that came in the kit. So I've used the little one, the long one. I've used, I think it was 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've used 5 of the stamps from the stamp set, and I've put them all on a stamping block. And again, using my trusty Versafine Onyx black ink, which I find personally gives the best, you know, all round. What I've done was I've just gone around the edge of my yellow piece of card, because I didn't need to do in the middle, because that's going to be covered up by my embossed piece with the frame around it. So that's going to sit in the card blank like that. Then I'm going to have my framed piece on top of that. Then what I've done is I have used some of the sentiments. I've used Hey Sweetie, and I've also used the sentiment that says, just hoping to make your day a little better. So again, I used my Versafine Onyx ink, and I stamped them onto some white card, and then I cut those out, and I just used my trimmer to cut those out. You can also see that I have some of the biscuits and the cupcakes and the cookies. I have cut these out of some of the papers that came in the kit, and I just fussy cut those out. And the reason I did that was I wanted to use them as like embellishments on the front. So some of them I've used Sparkle Noir, some of them I've used Glossy Accents, and then on the back of the whole lot of those I've used some 3M foam tape. So the Hey Sweetie is going to go on the front of the card, and I did debate putting the 2 sentiments on the front, but I felt it was a bit too much, too cluttered. I didn't want that. So I've used the Hey Sweetie on the front, and I've used 2 lots of cookie selections and cupcake selections to go with that. And then I'm going to put this large piece then on the inside. Now I could have just stamped on the inside of the card and stuck down the pieces I've cut out. And you can see there at the bottom, I also embellished the bottom of the card, of the inside, using again the stamps that came from the kit. I think this is really cool. Do you know what? Seeing all these cookies while I was making these cards was making me so hungry, but I really enjoyed using it. So let's speed up the video now, and we're just going to put the whole lot together. I'm using some of my Nuvo Glue to stick down, as well as some double-sided tape on some of the parts. Like you can see there, my framed piece, I've used some wide double-sided adhesive tape because I want to make sure this sticks down and stays down. Now I could have raised this part up if I wanted, but I wanted that flat down to my card base because I'm raising up using some 3M foam tape my sentiment with my lovely little biscuits and cupcakes. And you'll see in the end photos there when I finish this tutorial, this part of the video, you'll see that with the glossy accents on over the cupcakes, it gives it like a sticker effect. It's really cool. I love it. So I haven't used any foam tape on the inside sentiment of the card. That's going to just stick straight flat down onto the inside of our card base. And I was just trying to make sure I get it straight because I have an awful habit of getting something wonky on a card. So I have some of these biscuits and cakes stuck together, but I didn't like the way they were sitting. So I was faffing around there with how I wanted the placement of them, and I'm kind of happy with how that looks for a finish. So now what do we need to do? Finish up with some sequins. I've used some of the pinkish coloured sequins that came in the kit. I'm sure there's a lovely name for them, but I don't know what it is. And I've used my Nuvo Glue to stick those down. What I've also done is I've taken some of the Glossy Accents and I'm going to fill the sequins with the Glossy Accents. Just kind of brings that look that is on my cupcakes to the front of the card. I'll just kind of bring that all together on the sequins. So very carefully splodging some of that into the sequins. There's a blockage somewhere in that bottle, and I'm going to have an oopsie daisy later on with one of the cards because it all just goes out at the one time. I was not impressed, however I did fix it. Anyway, that's the end of that card, which is our fourth card. I did decide to put an extra little sequin on there. Yeah. And with that done, that's our card. And I'm going to leave you with some images of this card. Number 5 is going to be a card using a 5x7 card base, and I've also selected 2 of the patterned papers from the kit, and you can see the patterned paper, the orange one there at the bottom, that I have previously used in some of my cards, so I'm going to use this piece that's left over at the bottom. So I'm going to have the pink patterned paper on the top 3/4 of my card and the orange one on the bottom. I've taken some yellow card from the kit and I'm going to have that as my matte layer, and I'm going to use one of the peel offs. We got lovely kind of a mellow yellow peel off with glitter on it, and I'm going to use that as a divider between the 2 different pattern papers. This card is fairly simplistic in how I've put it together, in that I don't have a lot going on in the front, although there's a lot going on the patterned paper. So the yellow matte layer that you can see there, that measures 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and then the pink and orange papers, those 2 together, they measure 4.5 by 6.5. I'm going to use one of the die cuts, and that's the tag with birthday wishes on the front, as well as 2 of the large stickers that we got. We got a couple of large stickers in the kit, and I'm going to put 2 of them on the front of this card. I'm going to prop up the birthday wishes using some 3M foam tape, and then I'm going to work on the inside of the card. Now, I did faff around with adding stuff to the front, but for a finish I was quite happy with how the card looked just as it is. I didn't add any sequins or anything like that on it. So inside I'm going to use a sentiment, and I'm going to use a cookie card for my cookie friend. I'm also going to use a stamp from my stash, which is just a basic happy birthday. I still got some of those biscuits or cookies on my block, and what I'm going to do is stamp that down on the bottom right hand corner using my Versafine ink, and using that ink as well I'm going to stamp down my sentiments for my card. And that's card number 5 finished. Here's some pictures of the card we've made. Now we're going to move on to card number 6, and it's a 6x6 card base, and it's a scalloped edged card. And you can make one regular 6x6 card by getting a piece of cardstock measuring 12x6 and scoring it at 6. This is my 3rd favorite card, and it's a pretty plain or clean looking card, but I really like it. What I've done is I've taken one of the peel offs and I'm putting it on the bottom 1/3 of the card. It's about 1.5 inches up from the bottom, and I'm just going to put one of the peel offs on there, and these peel offs, they're all the same width, and we got these in the kit. Then above them I'm going to take some of the stickers we got in the kit. I'm going to put down Battenberg, which was one of my dad's favourite cakes. I'm also going to take a cupcake and put that down in the middle. I debated putting it on the end, but I'm going to put it in the middle. And then I'm going to take one of the ringed cookies and I'm going to put that then on the right hand side. And they all fit in there quite nicely. Next I'm going to use the stamp, the happy birthday stamp that I have in my stash. And I'm going to stamp that down using the Versafine Onyx black ink. Lovely. That's stamped down there just perfect. What I'm going to do next is take a strip of patterned paper. This is the one, it's the lovely pink patterned paper with cookies and cakes and everything on it. And this measures 1/2 inch by 5.5. I'm going to stick that in there down towards the bottom. It's going to bring a little bit of colour to the inside of the card, and it's picking up the colours that are on the outside of our card. I'm also going to take one of the peel-offs and I'm going to place that just above that patterned paper. So I'll have a nice thick peel-off and then the patterned paper. Once I've that done, I'm going to then embellish the card. I know I haven't put a sentiment inside, but I can do that at a later date. I'm going to leave it blank for now. So to embellish the front of my card, I'm going to take some of our lovely Nuvo glitter drops and I'm going to put 5 of them on the front of the card in a cluster of 3 and of 2. I'm going to gently tap the card, a couple of taps like that, and that will flatten out the Nuvo drops. It'll take the peaks off them and it'll give them a nice domed look. And here's some pictures of that card. Now we're going to move on to card number 7, and this is a 6x6 card that I'm going to make, and I'm going to use predominantly masculine colours, just saying, because it's blue and golds, which we kind of think as masculine, so that's what I'm going to use for this card. So I have a blue matte layer which measures 5 7/8 by 5 7/8, and then I have some of this blue backed patterned paper, and this measures 5.5 by 5.5. I've taken 2 of the dies from the kit, the cupcake with the Make-A-Wish on it, as well as the Best Wishes die, and I've die cut those 2 out in gold cardstock. Now I'm going to take the Best Wishes and I'm going to use some of my Nuvo Glue to stick that down to some of the blue card that I've used as the matte layer on my card base. So I have a piece of leftovers there. I'm going to stick the Best Wishes down onto that. Once I've that done, then I'm going to cut that into a nice tidy square and then round off the edges. And that piece will measure just under 2 by 2, but you can cut it down to whatever size you want when you are doing it yourself. So now I have that adhered onto my pattern paper. I'm just going to adhere the pattern paper onto my blue mat, and then I'm going to stick that down onto my card base. And I've used the Nuvo Glue because it allows me a bit of wiggle room so that I can get it straight onto the card. Now I've moved to the inside of the card, and inside this card I've taken some of the scrap or the leftover blue card. I've taken the washi tape, which is a blue washi tape with some of the cookies and stuff on it, and I've stuck that down. Then I've cut the blue card with the washi tape to 1 inch wide by 6 inches long, and I'm going to stick that down onto the card base. And I've also stuck down one of the peel-offs along the bottom edge of the washi tape on that. So that gives it a nice look on the inside as well as the outside. I've used the Make-A-Wish cupcake that I die cut out as my sentiment for inside my card. All I need to do now is add some sequins to the front of my card. Once I have those sequins down, I'm going to take some of my Glossy Accents and I'm going to fill the sequins. And last but not least, I'm going to take my Sparkle Noir, my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen, and I'm going to cover the blue background behind my best wishes in some sparkle. I didn't actually record that because it was an afterthought that I did later on, but there is basically that card. And here's some pictures of the card. We're moving on to card 8, our final card, and this is a card measuring 5 by 7, and I'm using a card base for that. So this 5 by 7 card is going to have some of the lovely cookies on the card front. So I have some of the paper here to show you. I've cut out my piece that I wanted for the front of the card, and the leftover piece I then cut out. I fussy cut all the little cookies off that so I could use it on the front of my card. I've used this stamp Just Hoping to Bake Your Day a little better, and I've put that on a piece of card, white card measuring 1 1/4 by 3 3/4. This mustard piece of cardstock measures 4 1/2 by 6 1/2, and that'll be my mat, and then this patterned piece of paper measures 4 by 6. I have my sentiment strip here, and as I said, it's 1 1/4 by 3 1/4, and then I have put that onto some of the mustard paper, and that measures 1 1/2 by 4. So now let's put our card together. I'm going to use some of my Nuvo Glue to stick my mats and layers down onto the front of my card base. Once I've that done, then I'm going to put my sentiment down, and I'm just going to use my Nuvo Glue to stick that down. I'm going to give some depth to the card by using some foam tape on the back of some of my little muffins that I have here. So I have 3 little cookies cut out, the ringed cookies. 2 are whole and 1 is cut to the edge there. And those are just going to be stuck down using the Nuvo Glue. Then my 2 little muffins that I have there, they're going to be on the right hand side, and I'm going to put the 3M foam tape behind those. With them in place, then I can take my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen and I can embellish the front of my card with that. And I'm going to put it on all the little cookies and cupcakes that's on the front of the card. So there'll be lots of sparkle when this card catches the light. When that's done, I'm then going to go to the inside of my card, and I want to embellish that by using some of the cookies that I had cut out and I'd left over there to the side of my desk. I'm going to use my Versafine Onyx black ink to stamp my sentiment, and the sentiment is from the stamp set that we got in the kit, and that's a cookie card from my cookie friend. And I've just used my stamping block to stamp that down, and it stamped really well. I got a good finish on that. I've taken one of the large cookies and I've stuck that to the top left of my sentiment, and the smaller one to the right side of my sentiment. So now I've slowed it back down. I'm going to use my Glossy Accents to fill in my cupcakes that I have on the front of the card and my ringed cookies, the small ones. It did splodge out a little bit on me when I was putting this down, but if that happens to you, all you need to do is take a piece of paper or cardstock and just lift up whatever little mess you've got left there, and it'll come up fine. So it all worked out well for me for a finish. So now I'll just put the Glossy Accents there on the ringed cookie there on the left, and put my pin back into the bottom, and that's basically our last card. I'm going to tap the card to make sure that my Glossy Accents, any air in it comes up, and that it, domes it over and that it sits well. So that is all 8 cards from our Love from Lizi kit. I'm going to show you here some pictures of this finished card. If you've enjoyed the video, I'd love if you'd give me a thumbs up by hitting the like button. You could subscribe and maybe hit the bell icon so that you'll be notified when I post more videos. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And until the next time, bye bye for now.